The foundation of any great team, any great collaboration is absolutely trust. It is no different in real estate with your clients, with your community, with the industry as a whole. So today we're going to talk about the long-term MVP, the consummate MVP, which is building trust in all things you do in your real estate career. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? Jeremy Kane, Real Estate Agent Playbook. So excited to bring this episode to you on YouTube as well as podcast. Please like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Please also share this episode with anybody who may be looking at, thinking about building their real estate business or getting into the industry or whatever, because it all starts with trust. And if you can build a solid foundation with your clients, with your sphere, with your industry of trust, you will absolutely succeed in this game. So please do that. Share all the things. I hope these help, and let's get into it. Okay, so why are we talking about trust today? I'm a huge sports guy, as you know, the Real Estate Agent Playbook, and I absolutely know that every relationship has to have the foundation of trust to absolutely succeed. You've seen it in sports. Something happens where, a coach gets fired, or something happens where there's a little bit of violation of trust, and, that was his favorite coach and whatever. And then, the team's at odds and the team absolutely crumbles. There must be all 5 players on the court, all 11 players on the field, absolutely trusting each other, trusting that common goal to get it done. In real estate, if we lack trust, our relationships don't flourish. And if our relationships don't flourish, we become very transactional. One transaction here, one transaction there, where we want to build a trusting, nourishing format so that we get one transaction and they give us 3 or 4, and they give us 3 or 4. And as you can see, that exponentially grows your business, which is, last time I checked, pretty cool. So make sure that you're really focused on trust. And it kind of goes without saying, if I'm speaking your language, I would absolutely love to sit down with you and talk to you about how I've built trust with my agents to really dial in my repeat client referral business. Book a call in the Calendly link below, Realtor Game Plan call, and I'd be happy to help you. So first things first, transparency is absolutely key. You must show all your cards. If you're not being transparent with your clients, it's like a coach not showing the quarterback the playbook and just, hoping that he can explain play by play and all of those things. You must have transparency. You must be an open book. You must be honest and transparent with all things you do, especially with your clients, with agents on the other side. Now, there's all kinds of different ideas there and strategies as far as negotiation. I'm not talking about that. You must be trustworthy. You must show up on time. You must do what you need to do, hit those deadlines, because if you have that full transparency with your clients, with the other agents, the deal will go smoother and the transaction will complete. And last time I checked, that's when we get paid. That's when we win. Is when the transaction completes. So full transparency is absolutely the key to success in this industry, both on the client side and in negotiations with other agents. In order to build this up, we must also listen actively. This is something that a lot of us, struggle with at times. We've never really been, total listeners. As entrepreneurs, we're typically leaders, so we typically talk first, listen second, and we must listen. We must listen to the needs of our clients. Clients will tell you so much. I did a YouTube video on another channel not too long ago about, how I had a listing client who, had listed her home before and had struggles and didn't sell and had such a terrible experience. And she kept saying the same thing. For her, it was, hey, this grocery store is literally walking distance. You can walk to all 3 schools, elementary, middle, and high school, as well as walk to the grocery store without crossing a major street. I put that in the video because she said it 4 times because I was actively listening. That ended up in the testimonial. It ended up being part of the reason that, the video was successful and, we got clients in through that home because it was marketed to the right crowd. It was marketed to somebody who, sought after that neighborhood, who, had kids in those schools that they could walk, without crossing the busy street, which, who knows, may not have been a huge idea, especially in the luxury space. But ultimately, it was a huge deal. So you must actively listen. And, especially when those clients have had a negative experience, they're going to tell you exactly what they don't want you to do. So make sure you're listening and understanding. Likewise, when you're dealing in negotiations, let the other agent talk. typically listing agents will tell you a lot more than, is given at face value. If you're just listening and allow them to continue to talk and tell their story, then you can take that information back to your client and absolutely build a winning strategy on this side as you negotiate that deal. So active listening is absolutely huge, getting that feedback and then building a strategy based on all that data you've gathered. Next up, we must have consistent communication. Weekly check-ins, if you have an active listing or an under contract listing, are absolutely key. You must communicate. You must have people know what's going on. George Bryant talks a lot about the zone of doubt. And if you don't, actively communicate every step of the way and what's going on here and what's going on there, your client, the buyer or the seller will start to, make up stories in their head and, have some undue stress, which could negatively impact the transaction at some point. So you must communicate, you must be open and communicate clearly as well. This goes without saying. The other agent, the listing agent, if, or whatever, hey, the inspection's this time, we'll probably get the report here. This one will have the objection, especially if it's nearing those deadlines. You want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because if you have that open line of communication, when things get tough, it's not, you guys trying to figure out the relationship, communication strategies and all that. It's, hey, okay, this is where we're at. How do we solve this problem? As a real estate agent, you are a problem solver, and that starts with effective communication with all parties involved. The next thing is huge, and this is, something that maybe we struggle with. We talk, back to the talking a lot, we say things. You must follow through on what your promises are. You must deliver. You are the postman. You are the delivery. You got to hit that game winner, right? If you're saying, yeah, we're going to do this, or, hey, the seller's not willing to do that, but I'm going to, throw in $500, or I'm going to get you, a washer and dryer, whatever. All these deal breakers that you can throw in to help solve the problem at hand that maybe is at odds and save the deal. Well, that's absolutely huge, but you must deliver. Do what you say you're going to do. If you're going to say you're going to do a marketing video for the property that you're marketing, do the video as soon as you possibly can. It's ready for pictures. You're out there recording, you're doing it, you're paying for the editing, you're getting it done, you're putting it out there. You must deliver on your promises or things start to go south. And as we talk about, that'll come up in those testimonials. Well, they said they're going to have this, 3-page bifold glossy colored flyer for my house and I never saw it. And we're on the market for, 20 days. And so that's when things start to get in trouble, is when, things don't go quick, boom, 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 like they have been over the last 3 or 4 years. But just deliver on your promises, deliver on your promise to the other agent to absolutely do everything you can to get this to the closing table, deliver on your promise to the lender that you'll work in concert with them to help get all the information they need when they need it, if they're having trouble, title, all the things. You must deliver on your promises. You must have that truth in your word. Right? Because if we're talking about, hey guys, you go get that W today, you're not going to have practice. And then you show up and you're like, oh, we got the W, but wasn't very good. We're having practice. Well, then you have, all kinds of trust issues. And that's where things start to break down if you're not delivering on your promises. This is the single most important piece of having that trust, right? If I deliver on my promise, deliver on my promise, deliver on my promise, the next time there's no doubt that, when the client needs to buy or sell another house, or their kids want to buy or sell a house, or whatever that is, that they can trust that I'll take care of them the same way that I took care of them, because that's always a promise I make. So we must, build that rapport and continue to level up every single day by delivering on our promises. So out of these, which one do you think is most important? Comment below. Maybe what one is your strength or anything like that. Comment below. I'd love to hear from you and love to start that conversation. And then we must continue to maintain that trust. We must continue to train. We can't get that multi-million-dollar contract and then, fall off the wagon, as some athletes do. They get that top contract. Some athletes find that as, fuel to the fire. Some athletes feel like they've made it, right? You've seen it where you get that big contract and either they level up and become Super Bowl MVP, or they fall off a ton and 5 years later you're like, oh, we're still paying that guy, what's going on? You don't want to be that person. So continue to follow up, continue to show up and ask for feedback, right? Continue to check yourself, right? How are we doing? What's going on? If I say I'm going to do an annual review every year, I better at least try and reach out and get that done, or hey, how am I doing? Did I miss anything? What do you think of those crumble cookies I send you, whatever it is, always check in and get the temperature of your client, because then you know how to adjust your business moving forward. They are in it from the client's perspective, not the real estate agent's, brain. So always ask for feedback, always continue to maintain that trust in the long run. Do what you say you're going to do, open communication, educate yourself and know exactly what's going on, because if you're able to get this big T word, you will absolutely win more than you will lose. And just like this, here we are. Trust is the cornerstone, both in sport and real estate. Make sure that you prioritize it, nurture it, and when those relationships come to fruition, it is absolutely the reason you are thriving, is because of the trust built early on in those initial meetings, in that first time home buyer consultation, whatever that is. Let's create winning relationships together. If you would like more insights like this, please like, comment, subscribe, share the episode over on the podcast side, and I would be happy to chat with you anytime. Let's go get a win today. Bye-bye.